When we were reviewing the announcement of the What CBTT on the Friday Night Chill stream 2 weeks ago, there was a specific line that made us really cringe. And it was when this black guy went and said, can I make a perception roll to identify where the noise is coming from? And this is something we see a lot with modern player, the asking for a roll. Maybe it always been there. I haven't been to every table throughout the time, but I don't recall that being a thing. We wouldn't ask for roll to make roll. We would describe what we wanted to do. Like in this case, the situation was rats in the wall, and you wanted to pinpoint precisely where the noise was coming from. And that's what we would have said we are doing. I try to pinpoint where the noise comes from. And then maybe the GM would ask for a roll. Or maybe not. Maybe the character can just do it. So I wanted to talk a bit about that. Language to enhance roleplay. If you want to have a more immersive roleplay and kind of obfuscate the game aspect a bit, although it's still a game, but maybe you want to get in your character a bit more. Play a character and not a character sheet. Just describe what your character does or attempt to do. And just say what your characters say. When you ask for a role, it makes the whole thing feel very video gamey, like you have a bunch of buttons in front of you that you can press to do stuff. But RPG can be much more than that. And also don't ask the GM, can I do X? I think this is what Shonner referred to as the Mother May I game. And if it is, I like that term. But yeah, don't ask the GM, can I try to pinpoint where the noise is coming from? Of course you can try. This is an RPG, and it's a reasonable kind of thing to do, so you can attempt it. That's the proper of an RPG. You can try whatever you want. So you can just say, I try to pinpoint the origin of the noise. You could say, can I pinpoint the origin of the noise? It's better than can I try, but try to use a little more action language. Your character is acting, so use the language that expresses that. Just doing this little change, you'll get a much more fluid roleplay experience. Of course, you want to be reasonable with that, with the whole thing. You don't want to go and say, I lift the whole building to see what's under. And the GM must also be reasonable with his reply. Since the environment is described through language, sometimes there is going to be misunderstanding. So maybe describing your character intent is useful as well. If a player says that this character is trying to block a passageway with a piece of furniture, and the furniture is too small to block anything, the character would realize that, and he wouldn't waste his time. So if the player say, I flip the table to block the passage, the GM can say, oh, it's a very small entry table, it wouldn't block much. Because the character would realize that. So there can be this back and forth. But this back and forth is better than just, oh, can I block the passageway with the table next to it? You could ask for more information about the environment. Like, is there some big furniture around? And even that could be supplemented with an intention. Like, is there big furniture around that I could flip to block the passageway? But then when it comes to acting, making an action, just say what your character do. And maybe the intent of the action, just so the GM can understand what you're actually trying to do. I said before that the combat is not the place where roleplay really takes place. It's often kind of a break in the roleplay for this mini-game to resolve a fight. But even then, we can try to make it feel a little more natural. Think of the kind of language that you would read in a novel, like in a Conan story or something like that. And instead of saying, I attack the orc in front of me, try saying something like, I swing my axe trying to split the skull of the orc in front of me. And even if you have a special maneuver you can do in combat, you can try to include them naturally in your description. Like if you want to do a reckless attack, don't say, I make a reckless attack. Say, I attack recklessly. You can even add some flourish, like I attack recklessly with no regards for my own safety. And the GM should get what you mean, especially when they are a maneuver that you have used over and over again. And then he can tell you, okay, roll with advantage. Or maybe not even. Maybe it's not needed. Maybe you just know what to do and you do it. Of course, you have to have a GM that is on board with that style. And if you are a GM watching this video, maybe you want to talk to your player about that. And this also works for systems where you have some kind of action economy. Saying, okay, I first want to use my bonus action to drink a healing potion, then my first action, I'll move 15 feet to this orc, and my second and third action, I'll attack. This is very mechanical. You can do the same thing by just saying, okay, I quickly chug a potion, gets in the orc's face, and try to strike him with my sword. The people around the table, and especially the GM, should get what you're doing. You shouldn't have to specify the mechanical details. We get it. We all play the same game when we understand the system. Of course, you still want to do this, all this with brevity. You want to keep still rolling. You don't want to be like super long in your description. And also with a spell, it can be a little more difficult to do. Depending on the game you're playing and the type of game that the GM is running, the style of play, spells often have a much more mechanical implication that need to be communicated, especially when they have option to be upcast or stuff like that. And there's also some other consideration to keep in mind. Magic user should be competent with their spell, but they are also in a time crunch in combat with many things happening around them. Things being in a constant state of flux. If the player tried to place a fireball in an exact manner to get all his foes, but none of his friends, that breaks the flow of the game and it's not realistic. Remember that people are not just standing still waiting for their turn. So if the player goes, okay, can I cast a fireball that would hit those 3 guys, but not include my 2 teammates here? We're back to the mother may I. Just tell the player, is that what you want to do? Remind him that the things are in a constant state of flux. And if he fuss about that, that's his turn. His character got a analysis paralysis, trying to aim perfectly his fireball, and he ended up not firing. If the players say, I cast a fireball, I try to hit all those foes and avoid my friends, if it's possible, let him do it. Don't be a dick about it. But if it ain't, well, collateral damage can happen. Like I said, the combat is in a constant state of flux. So I hope you found something interesting in this video, that it gave you something to think about. This is about what I want to talk about today. Let me know what you think about all this down below. Is it something that you're already doing? Or did you try it and not like it? Do you prefer the more mechanical approach? Or do you think that roleplay should move out of the way for the combat stuff? Anyway, let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, have a good day, and take care.